You are listening to Your League Tennis Podcast with your host, Anthony Radonia. Anthony's an avid weekend warrior tennis player, just like you. Every week, he'll be interviewing new and exciting guests that will not only differ in experience and skill level, but also in age and physical ability. Your League Tennis Podcast is about making you a better tennis player. Whether you're a beginner or have been playing for years, in your 20s or in your 60s. Now, here is your host, Anthony Radonia.
All right, Tommy.
Hello, hello.
Wow, we got some good applause there.
We did.
Crowd is really excited to see you today.
Very nice.
So what's up, Tommy? How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for coming. I appreciate this. You've seen the podcast, Tommy. We're just going to keep it simple. Talk about tennis, talk about life. You just came from church, I think, right?
Yep.
Cool. So we'll talk about that too, because obviously one of the photos that I put in the teas on Instagram is one that you gave me permission to put on, which is some of the health issues you had in the past. And I want to talk about that because that's obviously part of your story, but it's also like so interesting. And then I'm very interested to hear like your life afterwards. And I know that thing was one of the big moments in your life that sort of drew you more into Christianity. I guess I want to say more into because you were already a Christian prior to that. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested in that. I want to talk about that. But let's start out with some tennis first. We know each other through tennis.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So let's start out with just the ratings. You're a 4.5 USTA rated player.
Yes.
And I always forget this. Do you know your UTR?
I do not.
You don't? Okay. Because I know you had a doubles UTR rating. I don't remember if you had a singles one. Do you know?
I don't think I have a singles one, just because I don't play enough singles.
Yeah, because you haven't played tournaments. You're usually playing just league, and you'll play in the 4-5 league with me or the 5-0. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think you need some tournament play to get a UTR rating. Actually, I don't know.
That I don't know either.
But you know what? Even in league, you only play doubles.
That's right.
So you haven't played singles, so that's probably the reason. Let's just start with this then. When did you start playing tennis in life?
I started kind of late. I want to say probably towards the end of my 8th grade year. Believe it or not. And one summer, it was at 8th grade to 9th grade summer where I received some lessons, and I pretty much spent almost 12 to 13 hours a day on the court.
Why did you start lessons at that time? Did parents make you?
So the parents didn't make me do anything. I come from, I guess my parents were blue collar workers.
Okay.
We never had a lot of money. And so it's kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, I attribute everything that I have, by the grace of God, So I even learned tennis watching people get lessons, believe it or not. Yeah. Grew up in Huntington Beach, but I would go to the nearby community centers and even the nearby community colleges. And this one coach, he saw me practicing shadow swings and everything like that. And his name was Mario, and he taught at Golden West College. And he sort of took me under his wing, had me pick up some balls here and there, and he would allow me to take part in some classes. And then my parents found out that I really enjoyed tennis, and then they started paying, nominal fee for not private lessons, but group lessons.
And where was this?
Golden West College.
Golden West College.
Yeah.
And so you were there just because sort of after school you needed something to do, or I'm trying to still figure that out. Why were you there?
No, I heard through the grapevine, I guess, some friends that there was this one coach that was teaching tennis over there. And so I would ride my bike from Huntington Beach all the way out there and just just be there to learn. It was either that or go to the nearby tennis courts and hit by myself against a wall, or, hit in the garage. We never had a separated garage, so it was like a communal garage. So when all the cars were out, I would be hitting up against the wall.
Mm. And why did you even start doing that at 12? Like any sports prior to that? And was your dad playing at all? Or
So, yeah, my father picked up tennis. So I just sort of intrigued by it. But
Okay.
I was playing, oh my gosh, baseball, football, you name it, soccer. I was a goalie too.
I don't believe that one.
Believe it or not.
You must have spurted real young and then stopped somewhere along the way.
You're right. But yeah, I played baseball. I was a shortstop, believe it or not. Really good hands, quick on my feet.
Yeah.
But then my dad picked up a racket and he sort of started swinging in front of me, and I'm like, what is that all about? So I would follow him to his tennis, meetings and whatnot. And I would just sit there intrigued and just watching, but never really picked up a racket and started playing per se until, after 8th grade.
Okay.
So.
And then so you started going to Golden West College, just more or less to hang around, be around tennis.
Yeah.
And then you said this guy Mario sort of saw you as a kid who was interested and saw you had potential, or just a kid who loved tennis, or what was it?
A kid that had potential, according to what he was saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have the most beautiful strokes back then, but I could get every ball over.
Yeah.
I could run down every ball. So I call myself the giant killer because that's what I was known for.
Okay.
Yeah. In high school, I mean, I made, varsity, and I was beating up on these guys that would have formal lessons and everything like that. And
Yeah.
it was pretty fun.
Well, you still do that to this day.
Yeah, I guess somewhat.
We're going to come back to that. So before we, obviously let me ask you about your family first.
Sure.
You're married and you have kids.
Yes.
So what's your wife doing? What's your kids doing right now?
So my wife is a dental hygienist. She loves her job somewhat. My children, my oldest, he's in nursing school, and he's really enjoying that. He's actually, doing well. So I'm proud.
He's going to San Marcos, or is that was that before?
So he was going to San Marcos, and then he switched over and got accepted to a nursing program at
okay.
What is that? West Coast?
West Coast. And where is that located?
There's a campus in Ontario, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Right off the freeway, I think.
Right.
Okay. And then your daughter is?
She's going to San Marcos. She's a bio major. She wants to be a CLS. So it is a lab scientist that works at the hospital. They pretty much identify, like blood samples, bacteria, viruses, tumors, and this and that. So, yeah, they get paid well, believe it or not.
Interesting. I never even heard of that. And then you're currently, well, I guess I don't want to say currently because you've been doing it for a while, but you're a chiropractor right now. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for about almost 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you own your own practice now?
I do.
Yeah. And you started out working with some people and then eventually took over a practice and doing that full time now.
That's correct.
A lot of hours, yeah.
It's a good gig.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And you love it?
I do.
What would you, anything you would rather be doing? I don't even know what that would be, but is there anything at all? Like, I mean, sometimes I think like, it'd be cool to be a dentist, make some money, easy hours.
That's the one thing I don't want to be as a dentist. I don't want to be working inside of a confined space, especially the mouth.
Yeah. Your wife probably tells you some bad, crazy stories about what they see at the...
Some of those stories are disgusting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, let's stay on, before we go into some tennis, I mean, one of the main reasons why I wanted you here was I come to you for all my health concerns, like meaning like all my joint issues, my back issues, everything. And I don't say this to be rude to chiropractors, but you're a chiropractor, but I think I sometimes feel you're so much more. And I don't, again, I'm not saying that to be mean towards chiros. It's just my experience with chiros prior to you wasn't very good. It was sort of like in and out, crack this, crack that. I never really understood the point. Sometimes it was helpful. Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, it felt like it hurt me worse. And I left just with a bad taste in my mouth. And after I started going to you, I really realized that there's people out there, you know, sort of in every profession that are very passionate about what they do. So it's easy for me to see that you're very passionate about what you do because you sit there and you really explain stuff to me. You know, you know the anatomy, which is to me very surprising. I've never had one chiro in my life talk to me about anatomy ever, to be honest with you. And, you know, so tell me a little about where that passion came from, or is that just you? Like, would you be passionate about anything you're doing, or is it specifically that?
Well, I guess I always had an affinity to, you know, towards medicine and helping people and whatnot. But I got trained pretty well for 12 years under an orthopedic surgeon. And it's interesting. I do look at patients in a different viewpoint, I believe. I sort of mix and marry the medical provider, you know, the MD's perspective, especially in orthopedic surgeons, eye and viewpoint when I'm examining a patient. And I love to, you know, use differential diagnosis, you know, on a daily basis. And it just sort of interesting to me. You know, if I don't understand what I'm seeing, hearing, and then I'm going to do everything that I can to try and figure it out, you know, and I'll be honest with the patient. If I don't know, I don't know, but then I just don't leave them there. I sort of try to figure it out. And I think that has driven me to my passion, which is caring for people ultimately. Yeah, I mean, I love working with athletes. I have a long history in helping injured workers and people who get injured in automobile accidents and whatnot. So, yeah, I just get a joy out of helping people, I think.
And yeah, and you're always training. I mean, it actually surprises me because you're always going to trainings, you're always reading. And so that's actually, it's sort of inspiring because it helps me like realize too in my own profession, like I got to keep up with my things. But seeing you do that is actually pretty inspiring because when we talk, and we talk a lot through text and phone, but you're always training, you're always learning. So it's really inspiring. Let's do this because, like I said, I come to you for help on my health issues. I can never pronounce this, but we're going to do sort of a Rorschach test. Do you know that ink blot test? Is it Rorschach? Roy? What's the word? How do you pronounce it?
That's a good question.
Okay, we both don't know.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it either.
Okay.
But I know exactly what you mean.
Okay, so it's that psychology test of it's an ink blot and then the patient sort of spits out what they think it is.
Right.
My version of this is the Chiro Rorschach test. And I'm going to say a word, and then it's going to be your job to tell me how it's going to relate to tennis, how you're going to, anything you want. Okay? So here we go. Stretching.
Oh, one of the most important things for a tennis player, or for any athlete for that matter, because stretching is a third variable in an equation that ultimately everyone wants. Everyone wants power. So you have strength training, you have conditioning, and you have stretching. You cannot leave that out.
But you have strength training, okay, conditioning, and stretching. Okay.
That's correct. And it's flexibility training. That's what I call it. Yeah. So if you can train all three at the same level and intensity, then ultimately your power level will be maximized. And remember, your body's always changing too. I mean, there's seasons where you're going to be feeling strong. Some seasons you're going to feel like you've plateaued. Some seasons you're going to feel like I don't feel that great, But again, you have to reevaluate and see where you're lacking. So yeah, stretching is very important.
And you saying your 3 pillars, what were they called?
So 3 variables.
3 variables.
Yeah, in the equation to power.
Okay. Oh, interesting. That's a good way to think of it. And when you say that, it reminds me of that hip injury I had because I felt like I was really doing the first 2 a lot.
That's correct.
Like I was doing not crazy weights. I've never been into like lifting crazy weights, but I was, I would grab dumbbells and do like, hamstrings. And then I would go running. I'd do sprints and running up hills. And I was doing the first 2 variables all the time and never doing stretching.
That's correct.
And remember, I called you sort of scared, actually. And I was like, I need you to come over. Something happened. I can't move. And I thought I tore something in my hip or who knows what, because I don't know anything. And you told me literally, and I was very surprised to hear, it was just tightness.
It was,
Yeah.
ultimately.
And, okay, so talk about that a little. How does the tightness of whatever thing I was going through, how did that affect me?
So you got to understand when you train muscles, so muscles, the end points are tendons and they anchor into the bone. And the thing is, if you train just strength and conditioning without elasticity training, then what you're doing is you're strengthening or you're building the girth and bulk of that muscle. But then if you never stretch it out and you don't lengthen it, it's not a usable muscle. That's why you see guys in the gym, in Gold's Gym, and they're huge, they're massive, but then you can't use that type of muscle to fight.
Interesting.
Okay, so I mean, when you're fighting, and I did a lot of that too, but the thing is, you need quick, flexible, usable muscle and tissue. So you got to train that.
I want to stay on the Rorschach test, but
Sure.
just because you said you were fighting, you did what? Taekwondo? What? Remind me.
I did Taekwondo, I did Kempo, I did some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was stationed in Korea.
And I was just going to say, that reminded me, and you were in the Air Force.
I was in the Air Force.
That's right. Okay. So we'll try to find a way to bring that in because I am interested more to hear about that. Let's keep going with the Rorschach Chiro test. Heat and ice.
For me, I always lean on ice, especially if it's acute. People sit there and say, yeah, I look on the internet and there's, different phases of healing and this and that. But you can have an acute flare-up of a chronic condition. So that means if it's painful, if it's swollen, always lean on ice. Go to the ice. Now, once it's healed and you want to, maybe warm up the area, bring blood flow to the area before your activity or something, then yeah, you can use some heat. But then
prior to the activity.
That's correct.
Okay.
Or even in certain phases of healing too. Let's say you're out of the acute pain phase, but you just have dull, achy, whateverness. Then you can I use the 5-finger rule. So you can go about 3 minutes of ice, 3 minutes of heat, 3 minutes of ice, heat, and end with ice. Reason being, you're basically implementing a pumping system to bring the fluids in and to bring the fluids out. And it helps with healing when that happens.
Now, I know what the word cute means. I've been called cute many times in my life.
Acute, not cute.
Oh, acute. What does acute mean? Explain why you're saying acute.
Just simple terms, new. Just, yeah.
Okay. And then so I make it a habit to turn the heater on in my car anytime I drive. What do you think about that? That's
okay. Just beware of.
I'm sorry. The back heat.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? The seat heat.
So the thing is, that's short period of time. But for like older people, they like to lay on these heating pads and whatnot, and they'll even fall asleep and whatnot.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that because if you dry out, it can dry out the tissue. So you can suffer even burns, believe it or not, if you lay on a heating pad too long. So.
But how is it not beneficial? Like if I'm hurting, I come home, let's say from tennis, is it beneficial or is it hurtful if I just lay on a heating pad for an hour or two, or should I lay on ice, or should I do nothing? Should I stretch? What should I be doing after?
After a workout, or I'm assuming you're referring to the tennis workouts that we
Yes.
do, or a match, come back, hydrate. Hydration is huge. Number 2, yes, you can soak in an ice tub if you'd like, or you can do localized icing. Heating is okay, but again, I lean on the ice.
After.
Yeah.
Okay. So before, heat is okay. Like, let's say I'm driving to a match, right? We're not some high-paid athlete where we get to go into a gym and do all this stuff, but driving to a match, it's okay to put some heat on my back with the chair. After, stretch, hydrate. I'm assuming you mean water.
Hydrate, assuming water, Mike.
Water, Mike, and then ice.
And ice.
After. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of this word. This is the Rorschach Chiro test, and I didn't even talk about cracking.
Okay, so cracking. What is cracking? So here's the thing.
Is that the right way to say it, by the way? Do chiros call it cracking?
Well, nowadays, you look on, TikTok and stuff like that.
people are just
Everything's about cracking, you know? But here's the thing. When you adjust someone, you're usually, let's stick to this, the spine. When you're adjusting the spine, what you're doing is you're causing motion in the motion segments that are not moving well. That's all you're doing. You're not taking bones out of place, placing them back into place. That noise, the cavitation that you're hearing, is coming from the smaller joints. They're called the facet joints. Each joint in your body is encapsulated in a synovial sac of some sort. And when you gap that joint, that synovial sac, that joint is vacuum sealed. So when you gap that joint or move that joint, then you're going to get a cavitation, which is an equalization in pressure. And that's all you're hearing.
So I'm hearing a pop of what then? The vacuum?
So basically, it's like a suction cup on a tabletop.
Yeah.
If you pop that suction cup off the table, and that's
so
what you're
I
hearing.
am not being cracked.
That's correct.
Interesting.
Unless you want to be cracked upside down.
This is already worth the money because I thought I was being cracked.
No.
Actually, I knew I wasn't. You told me. You told me one time.
Yes, sir.
All right. What about TENS unit?
So there is a place for that. TENS, transcutaneous. It's only this deep into the tissue.
And the home ones, by the way, the ones you buy from CVS.
Yeah. I mean, they're okay. Again, they're all usually TENS. But I do prefer the electric stim that I use in my office. I have different mode settings. I usually utilize interferential because it goes about 1.5 inches deep, and you can cross the wave patterns to go deeper.
Oh, okay.
And then there's something called Russian stim, which the Russians came up with, believe it or not. Their Olympic team athletes all used it so they would put it on their muscle that they were training and then do their lifting and their exercises. And they believed that those muscles, tendons, and ligaments got stronger because of that. And thus came Russian stim.
And that reminds me of that remake of Enter the Dragon. There was this one part in the movie where the guy who was playing Bruce Lee was wearing this electric stim on his stomach, and he claimed it was like doing 500 push-ups. Is that true?
So,
No.
No. So you can, let's say you have a stroke victim.
Okay.
Then you can utilize that type of muscle stim to get a basal line level of tonality. So beyond that, you're not going to get any more benefits. As far as muscle building.
Okay. So that's really the question I was having. So you're not going to be able to build muscle by putting that on, press on, and sit back and watch TV.
Sure.
Eat some ice cream.
For $49.99. No, I'm just kidding.
And then going back to the CVS ones, they are beneficial to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, they can help deal with some pain and whatnot, superficial. Absolutely. Palliative measures, They come. They're useful for that.
Then I don't even know if you have experience with this, and it's okay if you don't, but it just made me start thinking of the other junky items I buy from CVS, like Salon Paws, and is that stuff? That stuff seems like a waste.
I mean, it's you can't take away the topical effects. Like you recently, when I tore my hamstring, for the first time I tried some BioFreeze that I was given, and I mean, yeah, it gave me some relief, I guess.
Yeah.
Superficially, it sort of masked the pain, but then deep inside, I still felt the pain.
Yeah.
So
Okay. What about MRI and X-rays? How important are those, I guess, with, prior to diagnosing a patient, or do we need to even get those?
So because I work for an orthopedic surgeon, I do like to have at least an X-ray before I adjust you. If given the history, okay, let's say if someone comes to me, they have no pain, they come in for maintenance care or whatnot, yeah, I'll still do my orthopedic exams and everything. But then if I find something that's sort of, a red flag-ish issue, I'll minimally get an X-ray and then probe them with more questions about their history and whatnot. But then if I get that red flag again in my head, then I'll request an MRI. Yeah.
Okay. How about, this is, I think, I'll call it outside the scope of chiropractic. Is that a word?
Chiropractic?
Chiropractic. But we talk about it all the time. So here's another Rorschach chiro test, diet.
Yeah, I'm not the greatest poster child for diet.
But we talk about it.
Oh, yeah, we do. Diet is huge, obviously. Because I'm a diabetic, now I have to practice a certain dietary plan or follow a dietary plan, and it's beneficial to me, as an individual. So am I for a low carb, high fat diet for myself? I am. I do get my blood drawn every 3 to 4 months. So I'm monitoring my levels of triglyceride and cholesterol and everything like that. So I guess it's okay for me to do that. For others, I would say unless you're doing that and you're getting your blood drawn, don't assume anything. Okay, at least go get a checkup, get your blood drawn. At least the blood panel, and where you are, and then you can start that dietary plan.
Yeah.
And monitor it.
Does insurance cover that, or you go pay out of pocket? Do you know? Or do you don't want to get into finances and insurance on
HMO
on YouTube?
Yeah,
Okay, let's not talk about it. I don't want to get you arrested.
Yeah. But you're my attorney, right?
Okay, so let's stay on this topic a little more, but now let's relate it to what are some common tennis injuries that you see? And then obviously let's talk about the preventative way to keep people from getting those, and then what we can do to help them if they're already experiencing it. So some common tennis injuries.
Sure. Recently, I've had a couple patients come into my office with tennis elbow.
Yeah.
I mean,
which I have too for a long time.
Seasoned players, we get it for one reason or another. For the lower level players, I'd say it's bad technique, bad habits and whatnot. I mean, higher levels, obviously it could be string tension. It could be the racket itself, a club that weighs 5 pounds like yours.
Put a little too much weight on my racket.
Yeah, you do. The other common injuries would be like plantar fasciitis, people playing tennis and having foot pain, Achilles tendonitis, calf strains, hamstring, strains. I mean, even low back issues.
So I don't know if you remember, but I got a shot in my elbow. What was that again? Was that a steroid or was it
I believe it was a steroid.
The first time didn't do much for me. And then I felt like I needed another one. And I went back and actually got another one. Then they suggested, look, this is probably the last one. I don't remember why they said 2, sort of your limit. But the second one really fixed everything. And so are you a proponent of steroid shots, or do you like, what do you like?
I mean, steroid has a place. It helped me with my lungs and everything. It helped you with your elbow. The only issue with steroids and muscles and tendons is that if you do it too much, it can weaken the fibers. So even though it can help with the inflammatory process, it weakens the muscle fibers.
So that's what the steroid injection is doing. It's helping reduce the inflammation.
That's correct.
Okay. But it will weaken it it'll weaken the fibers if you get too many.
That's correct.
Oh, interesting. And so is 2 the magic number, or is that just what doctors tell you? Like, do you know?
Some doctors can, they may even do 3, up to 3. I've even heard,
But that means the same spot, meaning
That's
my
correct.
elbow. Okay, so I can do multiple shots in a different spot.
Well, again, you got to be careful in saying that, because if you do it too much, you can increase sugar levels inside of you too. So cortisol and, all that other stuff. So you can cause metabolic issues in your system.
Okay, so let's go back to the plantar fasciitis then, because that was an issue for me too. And I ended up buying those special inserts or insoles, which really changed my life, no joke. Because before that, I was in constant pain. My feet always felt like they were cramping. I had to come home and put my foot like on an ice ball or a tennis ball or whatever I can do. And the insoles changed my life.
I agree. I wear them every single day myself. That's one of the things that I do in my clinic. I don't push or I don't recommend anything that doesn't benefit me first. Here's the thing. As we age, even at a young age, if you're not supporting the arch properly, you're going to grow into some issues. It can arise from your feet, affect your ankles. It can affect your knees. It can affect your hips to your low back. I mean, it can even go up all the way to your shoulders and neck. So I think there's a place for orthotics, not just for some, but everyone actually, because everyone needs it. They need the support in their arch as you get older. Can you walk around without arches? Obviously you can. But again, athletes like yourself, when you're putting all that pressure on your feet and they keep on collapsing every time you pivot to run and move.
Meaning the center of your foot collapses?
So you hear people saying, I have a high arch. Some people say I have a medium arch. Some people say I have a low arch. And if you buy shoes, you'll look and it'll say high arch, medium arch, low arch. Again, they're making these shoes to cater to the physical, physical needs that you may have. And you're buying these shoes. But the thing is, if you continue to do that sport or continue to do your activity and your arches continue to fall and fall and fall, you're going to end up with foot pain. Yeah.
Interesting. How am I? Okay, so insoles prevent. Is that right? Insoles, or inserts?
I would say
what are they called?
They're orthotics.
Orthotics help prevent plantar fasciitis. What helps prevent tennis elbow?
Again, good warm up, constant stretching, good technique, and then the tool that you're using. So whether it be a golf club, they get golfer's elbow.
Yeah.
I know golfers that have tennis elbow, but again, it's the tool that you're using.
Is that the same thing? We're just calling it 2 different things because it's different sports, or are they different parts of your elbow?
They're different parts of the elbow.
Oh, they are.
So lateral epicondylitis is on the lateral side, medial, or the golfer's elbow is on the medial side.
Ah.
Yeah.
So golfers don't really get that outside injury much?
They do, actually, believe it or not. But I think they just name it that way for whatever reason.
Because I've never felt inside pain, only outside.
So I remember getting that inside pain when I was learning to serve. And as you go over and you hear about people saying pronate,
Yeah.
So I would take my racket and I would be pronating, but that would, when it's a bad technique,
Yeah.
it puts a lot of pressure and load on that medial side. So I was developing that myself
Interesting.
way early in my tennis career.
I wrote down I was going to make a joke about spaghetti elbows, but I can't think of how to include that here.
Spaghetti.
Because I was trying to golf elbow, tennis elbow. It didn't work.
Ah.
Let's talk about the pictures you gave me. And to tell you the truth, I know I've talked to you about this. I don't want to say at length because I've only talked to you about this really surface level about what you went through with your health a few years ago. So I don't even know how to ask it, where to start. But tell me about what you went through, what happened. And obviously, I want to talk about what happened after, which is your life and everything. But
Sure. So, yeah, 2017 June 12th was a hard day in my life. Apparently, I was taken into the hospital by my wife and my son. And by that time, 5 days had passed since I started getting sick. And by the time they took me to the emergency room, I was in complete organ failure. So
5 days prior, you already started feeling sick.
that's correct.
Okay.
So I left work early and everything. So by that, I think it was like Friday, or it's vague right now, but it was 5 days according to my wife. And so when they took me to the emergency room, I was in complete organ failure, didn't even know it. I don't even remember being taken to the emergency room. All I remember is awakening in the ICU after being in an induced coma for 10 days. Yeah.
So you have no memory of going to the hospital,
I don't.
and obviously no memory during the coma. And so 12 days of your life went by, and then you just woke up in a hospital.
That's correct. Well, it's interesting. When they put you under using propofol, they say that you can hear and you can respond.
Okay.
According to my wife and the doctors, I was hearing and I was responding, apparently. But what I do remember is having these vivid dreams.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were, yes. And the thing is, it was interesting because in one of the visions that I had, and I call it a vision, let me just describe it. It was really weird when you hear it this way, but this is the only way I can tell it. It's like in my dream, I felt like I was in a hospital somewhere.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
That makes sense.
No, and it was weird. But I felt like I was in Las Vegas because the last thing I did before I was placed in this coma, I guess, at home, I was on the computer and I was making reservations for Luxor. My buddy, the orthopedic surgeon, was going to get married.
Oh, okay.
And I booked a room, apparently, and then I don't remember anything after.
Wow.
But anyways, in my dream, I felt like I was in a hospital in Vegas.
Okay.
And these crazy dreams. I mean, in one moment, I remember like them talking about my insurance for whatever reason. And then in the next moment, I remember them ripping things out of my chest going, he doesn't have enough insurance or something like that. And then in the next moment, I remember being pushed down. They said he needs to go down below. And I was being pushed down these ramps. And
Do we want to talk about what's below?
no, let me tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, it was no. No, it was crazy.
Wow.
In this dream, I looked around and I can smell just putrid, like rotting flesh. I look around and I'm like, am I in the morgue?
Oh my God.
Because there was dead bodies all over me, all around me.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
over
yeah.
me, and I was like, what in the world? Where am I? But anyways, the next thing that I do remember is I'm running from whatever was chasing me. It's kind of weird, but I'm running and I get to this open field and it's like a valley, I would imagine, because there was like an outline of mountains to one side and I can see the stars above and everything. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, whatever's coming is getting closer. I'm going to get eaten or killed or whatever. And then I remember, it's weird that this thought came to my mind. I look to the mountains. Where does my help come from? It comes from God, the maker of heaven and earth. And I looked up and I go, Lord, I need your help. And all of a sudden, the darkness faded away. And then all of a sudden, it was all light. And the craziest thing, I see this lion paw come over the mountain. And then I see this lion head, the head of a lion, and the eyes are, oh my gosh, even to this day, I can't even describe the colors that I was seeing in the eyes, you know? And I knew I was in the presence of God, believe it or not. It was weird. And all I said to God was, Lord, am I coming home? I just, you know, in my mind, I thought I was dead.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I guess this is it.
So you're a Christian. Were you a Christian prior to this incident?
So, yes, I would say I was a Christian.
Okay.
And I had faith, but was it practiced? Was it even where it is today? I would say probably not.
Well, obviously not. I mean, that experience has to draw you closer to something, and in your life, it drew you closer to God. Obviously,
it did because you know, I asked him, "Am I coming home?" And basically, God said, "No, I'm going to heal you." And I didn't know what that meant because I didn't know. You know, I was out in an open field. I was standing there, and I'm like,
So these are, sorry, I don't, go ahead if I don't want to interrupt you.
So, and then I woke up. That's when I found myself intubated. I didn't even know that at that moment, really. I just knew I had a tube in my mouth. And I was super confused. I didn't know where I was. All I knew was these doctors were running into the room where I was, and my wife came over and she's crying.
So she was there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the doctors are like, Dr. Lee, can you hear me? Can you see this eye? You know, that's all I remember at that moment. And it was weird. Yeah.
And were you supposed to die during this time? Like, like later on, did they tell you, look, we figured we're going to pull the plug at one point? Like, what were they telling you later?
So, yeah. So here's what I had. I had, apparently I suffered from a viral infection, and then it became a bacterial infection. I got bilobar pneumonia. It was Klebsiella bacteria, basically bacterial pneumonia. And then I got sepsis. I got DKA, diabetes ketoacidosis. And then all my organs failed. So liver failed, kidneys failed. My legs, according to my wife and my son, they were all like blue. And like there was no circulation or whatnot. And so the doctors at one point early on, they were talking about cutting off my legs.
Oh my gosh.
To keep me alive. But then at another point, my pastor even was there to hear it. My wife was told, get ready to bury him.
Oh, wow.
Because he has 0% chance of living.
Do you know how long into the coma this was told to your wife? Do you know?
I couldn't even tell you.
Okay.
I never really asked,
yeah.
You know. But I know that was said to my wife, and my pastor was even there to hear it. And yeah, it was confirmed later on when I was talking to them as my liver came back. And I kept on telling them, you know what? God said he's going to heal me. And they would all sort of laugh and, you know, humor me, you know. Yeah. Your liver may come back. Your kidneys, they're going to take about a year to start, you know, functioning again. But as soon as my liver came back.
What does that mean, come back? I don't even understand what that means.
So the liver failed. So your liver pretty much metabolizes everything that you eat I mean, everything that you drink,
Okay.
and you introduce into your body. So let's say it's a medication, it metabolizes that. If you drink alcohol, it metabolizes the alcohol. So it's like a filtering system.
Okay.
But that system, you only have one liver. Without it, you die. So if there are liver transplants that you can receive, but again, you have to be a candidate for it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So coming back means it started working again. They didn't really see that as a possibility.
That's correct. At that moment, they said, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And then so how we joke with you when we play tennis and we say you make excuses now. But how much of this are you still experiencing? Like, is it, I know you talk about your lungs still having issues. Like, what are you still experiencing from that?
So lungs, obviously, scarred from the pneumonia and everything. My legs, the amount of stretching that I do and everything, if I sit for any period of time, 15 to 20, 30 minutes, it becomes stiff. I can barely once I start moving, it'll get, what's the term? Elastic again, you know, and the pain sort of goes away. But that first couple steps, oh my gosh, it's still painful. And it's been almost 7 years now.
So this is probably never going to go away. You're going to be dealing with this likely.
It may get better. I may have to deal with it, like you said, for the remainder of my life. But the thing is, all I know, when God said, I'm going to heal you, he didn't just mean my physical. It's interesting. It has a whole new meaning to me. It's because the faith that I have in God, number one, it was confirmed to me through this experience that God is real. God loves us so much. You hear the gospel all the time, but you sort of, it's not for me, but you got to understand that God is real. I mean, he loves us so much. He sent his own son to die for us, And he says, whoever believes in Jesus, you'll be saved. If you call upon his name, you'll be saved, It's such an amazing thing that has been revealed to me in a new, fresh way through this experience. And I'm humbled every single day as I see, and I bear a mark here. I call it my God mark. It's a scar from getting dialysis and everything. And it's like a 3-pointed scar. And I'm reminded of God's mercy every day because of that. Because I know what I've been through, what God's taken me through. And here's the thing. I still deal with my breathing issues, which we joke about. And often you hear me say, my legs just aren't in it. It's the truth. I just don't have the strength that I used to.
Yeah.
And you say, well, you look at the, I don't want to make my head too big, but you mentioned, hey, look at the muscle mass in your calves and your thigh.
Oh, I say that?
You said that to me, didn't you?
I've never said that once.
You're such a liar.
Not on camera. I've never commented on your calves. No, I get you. Like you have strong legs, but there's still something missing.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well. Okay, so you're talking. Let's just stay on this for a second because I am interested. It's rare to talk to a person that's been in a coma, and you told us right now about insurance, in dreams, God, the soul, the smell of putrid whatever it was, and dead bodies. How real was that, or is it when you came out? Was it comparable to waking up from a dream, or was it something more? I guess I'm trying to figure out.
So it was so everything was like a dream to me, obviously, because I knew that I was in a coma after I came out of it. But when I was going through it, Tony, it was real. I mean, it couldn't be more real. The smell, just being bound to that bed, it was all real. and
Well, see, because that's actually my question. I know we're probably going totally off tennis topic, but I'm interested because in the dream, you don't know you're dreaming. When you come out of the dream, you realize it's a dream. My question for you is, because you experienced something totally different being in a coma, and then you're giving me a story that's something totally different. I don't dream about this stuff.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out if, do you compare it? Is it like on equal ground to a dream, or is it something totally different? Obviously, how you reflect on it, it's changed your life. I don't mean that it's not different.
Right.
But how different it was the feeling of experiencing that?
So I think I understand. It was life-changing. I mean, it seemed so real to me, and it was real to me. Coming face to face with God, now that I know, it's insane. If you think about it, we all say, yeah, there's a God who's distant and he doesn't care and this and that. But to be in that situation, to be face to face and to be able to see what I saw and to hear what I heard, it's life-changing. It's like, so here's the thing. Everyone says Christianity is a religion. I'm going to tell you, it's not a religion. It's not something that I do to go to God. What it is actually, and this is why it's so different, it's God who came to me, who found me in that place. And he's the one that met me, and he told me that he would heal me. So as I mentioned before, it's more of a physical healing. I believe it's a spiritual healing. It's like,
well, more than a physical healing.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's the thing. It's like Christianity, everyone says it. It's a relationship with God. Every Christian says it. Religion is something that we do to go to God. It's not a religion, because God is the one that found us first. He's the one that's given his son for us. Simply put, we're sinners. We've sinned. We broke God's laws. God had to do something. He didn't have to do it, but he did it. He sent his son to die on the cross to pay for that sin so that we could be with him. So all I can say is it's life-changing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting just to hear you talk about it. And this is a tennis podcast, right?
Yes.
But I think the whole point of why I even started this was I realized that everyone has a story. And so I think it's easy for me to get on and talk about what happened at the French Open, right? That's easy. I can sit here and go, Djokovic is going to beat Ruud in the final, all this stuff. But I just found it so interesting that every person I talk to, if you actually sit down and speak to them, they have a very interesting story to tell. So truthfully, even before I thought of this tennis podcast, I thought of maybe I'll do a podcast of just talking to random people and like hearing what they have to say, because everyone will have something interesting, right? And so that's why I appreciate you telling me this, because I'm not, I hope people aren't turned off by it, but I don't want this podcast to be political or even religious, to be honest.
Right.
But it's you, and it's your
me.
story. And it's just exciting to hear someone who's passionate about anything. I don't know how you feel, but I don't care if they're talking about playing pool or something. If they're passionate about it, it's inspiring. And so I see how passionate you are about Christianity, about your family, and about your work. So I'm glad I got to talk to you about it. Let's talk about something a little funny. I beat you at ping pong pretty regularly.
Whoa.
Can we discuss that a little?
Can we restate what you just said?
On the record, who has beaten who more, first of all?
Right here.
Come on, Tom. On the record. You just talked about being a Christian.
Tony.
Wait, do you think we're close? Seriously?
Yeah.
Take a guess. How many, what?
I don't
10
know.
to 10?
I don't know how many games we played But who's better?
Who has the better ping pong paddle? You do.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's, it's funny that is obviously comparable to tennis too, because just recently my wife got a better racket. She was using I forget what she was using before, but I think a real cheapie from like Walmart or I don't even know what. And she switched to a really nice Technifiber that the club got her, and it's been helping her a lot. Right now in your tennis life, like what are you, I don't know, what's your plan? Is it just continue just to have fun, meet people? Do you have any plans with tennis going forward?
Well, obviously I'd like to support you in your quest, and I believe you can do it. If anyone can do it, I know you can do it. You have the strokes, you have the discipline, you have, technique. Oh my gosh, you have it all. So you have the youth still.
Really?
Yeah, 44, dude, 54.
I forgot
44?
to ask you about that at the beginning. You're 54?
Well, I'll be 54 in a couple days.
A couple years?
No.
A couple days?
About 9 days.
Really?
Yeah.
I swear, for some reason, I thought you were 51. I'm not joking.
No.
Ah, wow, you're 53. What an old curmudgeon. So, man, 54. I think you really have to try to play a 55 coming up, because you'll be starting in December. I think you'll be allowed to play 55s and ups. That'll be a good tournament.
I may do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But going back to you, you can do it. I believe you can win an open.
Well, that's like I did with Joe Jr. when he was on. I was like, hey, this is a free tennis lesson for me. But diagnose me then. Why aren't I winning more often if you say my strokes are so beautiful and I'm so youthful at 45, which I'm not. Not youthful, I am 45. But why aren't I winning? And by the way, we're taping this on Sunday, and I got to watch, I don't know how much of you saw it because I know you're at church, but I got to watch Djokovic Ruud highlights, and watching Ruud was such to me, it was sad because it did sort of remind me of myself, because not that I'm close to his level. That's not the point.
Right.
But the point is he got a little timid when he didn't need to be timid. When he swung out, he was on Djokovic's level. And even at the beginning, right? I think he lost 7-6 first set. And he should have actually won that set, in my opinion, watching it.
I agree.
But once things got a little tight, he got timid. He didn't hit the same strokes. And I started like looking at myself in the mirror almost like, I think that's me. Like what he did today is what I do, I think, in matches.
I agree. If anything, for you, I'm not the greatest critique or anything like that, but again, it's mental, I think. I already touched upon that you do have the strokes, you have you definitely have the tenacity, you have the ability, you have all that. However, I think where you lose it is in the mind. It's like instead of pressing on that gas pedal, like you said, you sort of lift up and you are a little timid. And the thing is, I don't know, it could be your condition that day. It could be, what you've eaten, what you didn't eat,
But if you're saying, you said gas pedal.
Yeah.
Because I really would fight back with you if you said, when you said mental, I think it could have went a bunch of different ways. Weak-minded is one of the roads you could have went down. And I don't consider myself weak-minded at all.
No, you're definitely not weak-minded.
So how can I fix gas pedal then? Like, that's just me. What am I doing? Like,
I think there's a fine balance between confidence and just being timid, so you need to have a good amount of confidence, well-balanced confidence going into a match, and keep that as much as you can.
You're right, because I think the issue sometimes is I equate cockiness with confidence, and they're not the same thing.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah. I got to find that right amount of confidence out there, sort of having fun, thinking I'm the better player, but without being cocky, because I always feel that's something 100% don't want to be in. I think it messes me up a little.
And I think sometimes you want to have a little too much fun than actually just get the job done too.
Yeah.
Because when you do get angry, and I can pull your strings, and I have.
Yeah.
Oh, you pull out some amazing shots.
Oh, that's interesting.
You step forward, you're hitting that ball out in front. I mean, clean hits with confidence. So, yeah.
So I gotta do the old Jordan thing where I gotta make up something that gets me upset prior to the match, maybe.
I totally agree.
Really?
Or something of that type of a mindset where once you step out on that court, it's all business. I don't care who you're playing. It has to be all business.
Okay. No, I agree. I appreciate that. Let me give you something. This is actually very hard for me to give you because I really like this card. So, I've been giving everyone a little present to say thank you because everyone comes to my house and we sit here and it's, time out of your family life. So you remind me of Jimmy Connors. So I have a cool card here that's rated and all this good stuff. It's not crazy expensive. I don't remember how much I bought it for, maybe 70, 80 bucks. But it's a good card. And I like it a lot because I love Jimmy Connors. But the reason he reminds me of you is he's sort of a a-hole on the court. Sort of reminds me of you in a weird way. But he's also so amazing and passionate to watch. And you just see how much he loves what he's doing. And going back to what you just told me a second ago, how you got to be confident and stuff. And I think if I played more like you, the mentality, or more like Jimmy Connors, then I would be a lot better. So anyways, I'm joking with you by calling you an a-hole, obviously. But no, I just hope you enjoy that. Keep that, because that's just a reminder of, who you are on the court. It's Big Jimmy.
Thank you.
So, all right, my friend. Well, let's just end it there then. Because that was good. I'm glad. I think I hit everything I wanted to hit with you, and I'm really happy we focused on like the health questions because obviously I don't get to do that with everyone. But I appreciate you, Tommy. And we got to play tomorrow and maybe play some Pong very soon.
Yes.
All right, my friend. Let me do a little outro music and we'll talk. Thanks, Tommy.